Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Balarama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गौ प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन 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 ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram. Lalita Vishakha Jaya Radhe Shyam. Jai Lalita Vishakha Jaya Radhe Shyam. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Jayam Vishnu Paramahamsa Parashagacharya Ashtotra Jata Shri Srimad Jila Bhai Chandarin Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Rani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Iskan BVT Samsthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Just want to quickly introduce His Grace Mukunda Prabhu. His Grace Mukunda Prabhu is a senior disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada and a long-time member of ISKCON. Originally from Los Angeles, he joined ISKCON at age 15 and traveled with Radha Damodar Sankirtan Party. He served under Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj for 20 years and has a strong background in classical and devotional Indian music, specializing in Gaudiya Vaishnava Kirtan. He holds advanced degrees in South Asian languages and literature with a focus on Sanskrit, Bengali and Braja Bhasha. Mukunda Prabhu was a founding member of ISKCON's Shastrik Advisory Council and worked as Sanskrit translator for the BBT. He now serves on the ISKCON India Scholars Board and resides in Vrindavan with his wife, Shri Murti Mataji. With that, we would like to welcome Mukunda Prabhu and Shri Murti Mataji loudly chanting 3 times. Haribol! Haribol!
Haribol! Is this Mahaprasadam from yesterday? I noticed. Okay. All right, so today we're all very fortunate that we have Srila Prabhupada's books, and we're going to discuss 4th Canto, Chapter 24. What is that title of that chapter? Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24. Don't look it up. You're all in Silicon Valley, constantly connected to somebody. Huh? Kya? Sorry? No. Nope. 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 Yes. Rudra Gitam. Very favorite part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm going to tell you some things about this that you may not know. So please listen closely. First, we always begin, we don't need this table even, what to speak with anything on it, except for this. It's a barrier, right? No need. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Swadhamopagate Dharmajnanadivisaha Kalaunashtadrishamesha Puranarko Dhunoditaha. I discouraged him from displaying the text on the board, but we could use it now. Anyway, I'll just recite the Sanskrit. We're only going to look at one of the verses. There are many verses spoken by Lord Shiva here. He says, Darshanam no didrikshunam dehi bhagavatarchitam rupam priyatamam swanam saravendriya gunanjanam. That means, my dear Lord, I wish to see you exactly in the form that your very dear devotees worship. You have many other forms, but I wish to see your form that is especially liked by the devotees. Please be merciful upon me and show me that form, for only that form worshipped by the devotees can perfectly satisfy all the demands of the senses. And then he goes on to explain exactly what he has in mind. He says, Snigdha pravrit ghana shyamam sarva saundarya sangramam charvayata chaturbaho sajata ruchinananam padma kosha palashaksham sundara bhrusunasikam sudvijam sukapolasyam sarvakama vibhushanam. The Lord's beauty resembles a dark cloud during the rainy season. As the rainfall glistens, his bodily features also glisten. Indeed, he is the sum total of all beauty. The Lord has 4 arms and has an exquisitely beautiful face with eyes like lotus petals, a beautiful, highly raised nose, a mind-attracting smile, a beautiful forehead, and equally beautiful and fully decorated ears. He goes on for some time. One more. Priti prahasita pangam alakai rupa shobhitam lasat pankaja kinjalka tukulam vrishta kundalam spurat Kiritavalaya Haranu Puramekhalam Shankachakra Gada Padma Mala Mani Uttamadhimat. The Lord is super excellently beautiful on account of his open and merciful smile and his sidelong glance upon his devotees. His black hair is curly, and his garments, waving in the wind, appear like flying saffron pollen from lotus flowers. His glittering earrings, shining helmet, bangles, garland, ankle bells, waist belt, and various other bodily ornaments combine with conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower to increase the natural beauty of the Kaustubha pearl on his chest. There's so much to say about these verses, and Prabhupada does say quite a bit about them. The only problem is that we don't have very much time tonight. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada says, after the scorching heat of the summer season, it is pleasing to see dark clouds in the sky, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Barahava Tamsam Asitam Buddha Sundarangam. The Lord wears a peacock feather in his hair, and his bodily complexion is just like a blackish cloud. The word Sundara or Snigdha mean very pleasing. Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya. Krishna's beauty is so pleasing that not even millions upon millions of cupids can compare to it. The Lord's form as Vishnu is decorated in all opulence. Therefore, Lord Shiva is trying to see that most opulent form of Narayana or Vishnu. Generally, the worship of the Lord begins with the worship of Narayana or Vishnu, whereas the worship of Lord Krishna and Radha is most confidential. Lord Narayana is worshipable by the Pancharatrika Vidhi, or regulative principles, whereas Lord Krishna is worshipped by the Bhagavata Vidhi. No one can worship the Lord in the Bhagavata Vidhi without going through the regulations of the Pancharatrika Vidhi. Actually, neophyte devotees worship the Lord according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi, or the regulative principles enjoined in the Narada Pancharatra. Radha Krishna cannot be approached by the neophyte devotees. Therefore, temple worship according to regulative principles is offered to Lakshmi Narayana. Although there may be a Radha Krishna Vigraha or form, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable as Lakshmi Narayana worship. Worship according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi is called Vidhi Marg, and worship according to the Bhagavata Vidhi principles is called Raga Marg. The principles of Raga Marga are especially meant for devotees who are elevated to the Vrindavana platform. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis, Mother Yashodananda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, the cows, and everyone else are actually on the Rag Marga or Bhagavata Marga platform. They participate in 5 basic rasas: Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, and Shanta. But although these 5 rasas are found in the Bhagavata Marg, the Bhagavata Marg is especially meant for Vatsalya and Madhurya, or paternal and conjugal relationships. Yet, there is a Vipralambha Sakhya, higher fraternal worship of the Lord, especially enjoyed by the cowherd boys. And he goes on to elaborate on these things, but someone asked me to talk about a particular topic, and someone else asked me to talk about a different topic. So our host is the one who chose the topic. But Rudra Gita, does anybody know the context of this Rudra Gita? Huh? Yes, Lord Shiva met the Prachetas where? Huh? Not Narayana Saras. Well, you can call it that, but it's actually called Rudra Tirtham. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Guru Vayur, anyone? Some people know. So the temple tank outside of the Guru Vayur temple is called what? Rudra Tirtham. Because that is the place where this pastime took place. It's a long, long story. The Prachetas, they were sent to do austerities in order to become bona fide Prajapatis. But as it often happens, they meet the devotees. So they came to this place, and Lord Shiva and his wife were already executing austerities in this place, which is very close to the ocean. You'll find the description given here in the Bhagavatam and in the commentaries on this passage of the Bhagavatam. It exactly matches the description of Guruvayur today. They say, that is to say, the Nambudiri Brahmanas who officiate in that temple say that their worship is established long, long back, and the history of the place is described in the Narada Purana. Narada Purana exists in two forms, Narada Purana per se and Naradiya Purana. They're more or less the same thing, but there's a lot of overlap there. The Puranas are sometimes a little bit messy in terms of textual conservation, but this place is, Guruvayur is where the Prachetas were doing their austerities, where they came across Lord Shiva. Now, there's a long story associated with the deity of this place, the deity being whom? Guruvayurappa. What does it mean, Guruvayurappa? Huh? What does it mean? Guruvayur it's a little bit contentious what the meaning is, because some people say it's derived from Sanskrit, in which case it refers to Guru meaning Brihaspati and Vayu meaning the wind god. Guru Vayur. Other people say it derives from Old Tamil, which is the source of Malayalam language, in which case Vayur means, I think, ocean, right? Or someplace near the ocean. So anyway, so either way it fits. But Lord Shiva and his wife were doing austerities there. That deity Guruvayur, and Appa, what does Appa mean? The Lord, yeah. Nowadays they call him Dr. Guruvayurappa because he's very famous. He can cure people from incurable diseases. No, he does this. And actually he's been doing it for quite some time. There's a long history of this. It's not just in the 20th century that he's doing this. Anybody know Chembai Vaidyanatha Bhagavatar? Your wife must know. Famous Carnatic singer, but at the height of his career he lost his voice. And in the middle of a concert at that. And so he was a devotee of Guruvayurappa anyways. So he took shelter of the Lord and silently prayed, because that's all you can do when you lose your voice. And the Lord somehow cured him. And many, many other people like that, they get cured. There was one devotee a few centuries back. He went to a Jyotish, and the Jyotish told him, you're going to die of a snake bite pretty soon. What to do? He said, if I were you, or if you were me, you would just focus your mind on Bhagavan and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Those of you who have been to Guruvayur, you've seen the Siveli procession that they come around with elephants, very much like we're doing in Mayapur. Mayapur basically copies that thing. What are they chanting when they go around? There's a Sankirtan party first, then all the Brahmins come and the elephant, and the Lord is on top. What are they chanting in the Sankirtan party? They're chanting this Mahamantra. Where does that come from? It wasn't imported from West Bengal, and it's been going on for at least several thousand years. It's interesting to think about. Anyway, so this deity of Guruvayurappa, actually, he has a long, long history. Way back in the Padma Kalpa, that's the previous Kalpa. How long is a Kalpa? Yes, it's a long time, put it that way. Longer than you can imagine. But back in this period of time, some great devotees were, Brahma was himself benedicted with this deity of the Lord by Lord Vishnu, I believe it was. Brahma was worshipping this deity, and then these two great devotees who were named Prishni and Sutapa, they got a benediction from Brahma that you can worship this deity. He gave them the deity to worship because they ardently wanted to have Krishna as their son. And it's not just anybody can have Krishna as their son. Prishni and Sutapa, they have different forms in the spiritual world and in the heavenly world and also in this world. In the spiritual world, they're known as Nanda and Yashoda. In the heavenly world, what is their names? Drona and Tara. And in that form, they also performed great austerities to have Krishna as their son. So as Prishni and Sutapa in this world, they were given this benediction that they could pray ardently and execute austerities for how many thousands of years? Many. More than you can imagine. And they were doing this, and they were ardently worshiping the Lord, praying to have him as their son. And so the Lord appeared to them and gave them the benediction. Yes, for 3 births you will have me as your son. And in each of these 3 births you will worship me in this deity form also. So first it was whom? Prishni Sutapa. Then who did they take birth as again? Kashyapa and Aditi. And who was their son? Yes, little brother of Indra, Upa Indra, little Indra. In other words, Vamanadev. And then finally they took birth as Vasudeva and Devaki. And we all know the story of Vasudeva and Devaki. They were in the prison of Kamsa. And when the Lord appeared to them finally after so many prayers, the Lord took birth. Devaki couldn't remember anything, just like Yashoda could not remember anything. But suddenly, who is in front of her? How did the Lord appear to Devaki in the prison of Kamsa? 4 arms, and exactly as we've heard about in this description, is it not? What's the order? If I am picturing in my mind, those of you who know Guru Vairapa also, I believe it's Shankha Chakra, no, Chakra Shankha, Gada Padma. I think so. I might be wrong. But it's Chaturbahu Narayana form, Vishnumurti. And this is how he appeared. And of course they got nervous, and so they said, please, show us as a human baby. So that's what he did, and he became Krishna. So this is how it is that Guru Vairapa, who is actually Krishna, but he comes in this Vishnu form. It's very interesting, we were discussing this the other day, that we have this deity of Krishna that appeared to Madhvacharya. Who is that? Udupi Sri Krishna, famous. He actually appears to be Krishna, but they worship him in the mood of Vishnu because that's the sampradaya, the Aishwarya Bhava. And on the other hand, with Guru Vairapa, it's the opposite. He appears to be 4-handed Vishnu, but everybody thinks that he's Krishna. And they see him in that way. And they dress him in that way, actually. If you've gone to the Nirmalya Darshan, anybody know about this? Early morning, 2 a.m., 1 a.m., you have to wait in the line until you can get in. And then even then you just get a brief, what we call in Vrindavan, tanki, just a brief, flash, few seconds only before they kick you out. If you're fortunate, you can see his smiling face, but many people who go there, they can't see him. Anyone had that experience? He's very difficult to see. So I've seen him sometimes, and sometimes I can't see him also. I don't know what explains that. There must be some principle regulating it, but he's like that. So they were worshiping this form of the Lord. And at a certain point, when Krishna finished up his leelas, he consulted with his ministers, chief of whom is Uddhava. And he revealed to Uddhava confidentially, look, this whole thing is going to wrap up very soon. Nobody knows this yet. But these deities were worshipped by my parents. And so I have the obligation to pass on the worship. If you're worshiping a deity, you have to take that very seriously. It's an eternal obligation. It's not, do you have time before work to do some little puja with agarbatti and this and that. I mean, you have to actually take it seriously, follow the Pancharatrika principles as Prabhupada has outlined in his purport, and you furthermore have to guarantee that This responsibility is passed on to your descendants so that the worship is never stopped again. It's a big, big responsibility. That's why some spiritual masters in ISKCON, they don't encourage so easily, because it is a big deal. And Prabhupada took it seriously also. Anyway, so Krishna told Uddhava like this. He said, Brihaspati will come, Vayu will also come. You have to meet with them and find a place that is equal in sanctity to Dwarka, and you install the deity there after Dwarka is submerged, because this whole place is going underwater very soon. So that actually happened, and Brihaspati and Vayu, they came, and when everything was underneath the water, there was one little island, and this deity is there. So Brihaspati and Vayu, they took this deity, they went to meet with Uddhava, and together they went all over India looking for a place that was equal in sanctity to Dwarka. But it's not so easy to find such a place, because Mayapur and Vrindavan, they're far above Dwarka, at least in the conception of rasa. So, and other places, with all due respect, they're not the same as the Leela-sthali of the Lord, especially of Lord Krishna. So they were looking all around, and finally they came to Thrissur in modern-day Kerala. Who had his ashram there? Anybody know? Parashuram, yes. And so they went there. Still that temple is there. Shiva temple is there. So they met with him, and he said, I know just a place. So he took them to Guru Vayur. They were flying over the place in an airplane, and when they looked down below, they saw that there's Lord Shiva and Parvati, and they're dancing in ecstasy. Because somehow or other they knew that the deity is coming. So they landed there, and Shankar Bhagavan, actually the current temple of Guru Vayurappa previously belonged to whom? Anybody know? Lord Shiva and Parvati were living there. They were together in that temple. But they agreed to let Guru Vayurappa have the temple. Really, the temple actually belonged to Bhagavati, the wife of Lord Shiva, Parvati Devi. And so then they shifted across the Rudratirtham to a present-day temple, which is called Mammiur. And from that day on, the temple became Guru Vayurappa's temple. And Bhagavati Devi, she didn't want to go. She wanted to stay there. So she said, you can have my temple provided I get to stay in a corner of the temple, and from time to time I can have your darshan. Because the ladies are usually more pious, right, than the men. So that's what happened. And even now, if you go and take darshan after you exit from Bhagavati Devi's shrine, there's a little corner there with a picture of Mahadev. You have to offer your respects if you cannot go in person to Mammiur and pay respects to Lord Shiva. Because without them, none of us would have any darshan today. So this is the history of Guru Vayur. Sometime much later, this is the beginning of Kali Yuga when this deity was found and installed. Vishwakarma, the architect of the demigods, he was commissioned to build the temple. But, time factor, we discussed the other day, everything turns to dust eventually. So the temple has to be rebuilt from time to time. When was the last time the temple was rebuilt? Anybody know? 1970. What happened? They put the deity to rest, and somebody outside could see that there's smoke coming from inside the temple, and that should not be happening because there's nobody in there. So what happened? Actually, there was a fire, and it destroyed a good part of the temple, but the deity was unharmed. All the deities were unharmed. There's about 7 deities in that temple in different places, they have their own little places, but they were all unharmed. But the temple was destroyed, and it had to be rebuilt. On one such occasion, when the temple was rebuilt, Shankaracharya had to come and institute the principles of the puja, which are still being followed even to this day. I think this was about 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years. Raise your hand if your family tradition has been unbroken for 2,000 years. There are some. I know people like this. For 2,000 years, everybody in the family has been doing the same thing without any stop. It's possible if you take your responsibility as responsibly as we're supposed to take deity worship. You get a picture? This is serious commitment. Anyway, so Shankaracharya, the legend is, Shankaracharya was a little bit dismissive of deity worship at first because he was preaching this philosophy. What is Shankaracharya's philosophy? Mayavada. Why do we call it Mayavada? What does Mayavad mean, literally? No, what? Mayavada. What does it mean, literally? Illusionism. The philosophy of Maya. Because it is Maya. But he was ordered by Lord Vishnu to preach a philosophy that resembles Buddhism enough to draw people who had left Hinduism and gone to Buddhism. At that time, Buddhism was everywhere in India. Still it's there. Even in Afghanistan, modern-day Afghanistan, until a few years ago, courtesy Taliban, there were these Buddhist statues. And what's that place called? I forget, Bamiyan. So, this culture was there, very, very prevalent. And Shankaracharya actually drove Buddhism out of India, but the only way that he could do that was by reinterpreting Hinduism such that it resembled Buddhism. And that's why the Puranas say that it's Prachanna Bauddham. It's like veiled Buddhism, this Mayavad philosophy. Impersonalism. Impersonalism and voidism, they're kind of very similar. That's why Srila Prabhupada told us, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. So anyway, Shankaracharya, he was, in the mood of preaching this Mayavad philosophy. He wasn't taking this deity worship so seriously. So he was in an airplane in the sky, and because people like Shankaracharya can do that kind of thing. We can't do it. But the legend has it that he was thrown from his airplane and he crashed through the roof of the temple and landed in the courtyard of the temple. If you're doing Shayana Pradakshina today, everybody, have you seen them? They strip down to their gamsha and they go take a bath in the Rudra Tirtham, and then they come back and they roll around the temple all the way around. That's called Shayana Pradakshina. It's a way of doing parikrama. Kind of like when we go to Giriraj Govardhan, what do? Dandavati parikrama. They pay obeisances and they put one stone there and then they move ahead that distance and then they pay obeisances all the way around the temple. So in this temple, they have this Shayana Pradakshinam. They're just rolling around the temple. And it's very, very difficult to do that. Of course, the rules are such that you have to do it on an empty stomach for obvious reasons. But they don't let old people do it also because it's quite strenuous. In fact, that temple, they have such a tradition. One man does all the puja every day. Only one person goes on the altar, and he does everything. Can you imagine? From 3 in the morning until 10 at night, he's constantly engaged. One person only. He's called Mel Shanti. And for 6 months he'll do that. And then they elect a new one after that, and they trade off like that because he can't do it for too long. And he has to live in the temple. They don't even let him go home because once he leaves the temple room, we don't know what he's going to do, right? So this is how they ensure that everything is very strictly followed there. Very serious about deity worship. It's a great example, actually. Yeah. And if anything gets contaminated, last time we were there a few months ago, so we were waiting in the senior queue because now I'm a senior. So then, if anything happens that contaminates the temple, then they have to get everybody out. They have to clean everything. It costs 50,000 rupees to clean up to repurify the whole temple. It's a big deal. So we saw there was some blood on the. Fortunately, we were outside of the temple, but we thought, did that guy get in or not? We don't know. Anyway, so Shankaracharya, he fell into the courtyard here, And if you're doing this Shayana production, there's a little spot in the northwest corner of the temple, and there's a little square in the concrete that marks that spot where Shankaracharya fell. They still have the reverence for that place. And those of you who have read Shankaracharya's devotional works, you don't need to read his Sharirik Bhashya, but you've heard this one. What is that? Kaivalyam navanitaharam anaharam bhuvanaharam. This is how he glorifies Govinda. He says, he's one without a second. He eats butter. He eats nothing at all. He eats the worlds. Like Yashoda found out. When his friends were complaining about him, she checked inside and she saw, yes, it's true what Shankar said. So Govindam, pranamata Govindam paramanandam. And also he said, Bhaja Govindam, we all know this one. So this is Shankaracharya, actually, who is a great devotee, but he had a thankless task, as they sometimes do, just like Maya Devi has a thankless task. She has to push us around and make us suffer and put us into illusion, unless we're serious, in which case she backs off and then Yoga Maya takes over. So this is Lord Shiva. These prachetas were coming to engage in austerities because they knew that nothing good in this world, nothing good in any world comes unless you have a long history of tapasya behind it. Prabhupada said this. Anybody ever heard the Sitarya, Ravi Shankar Pandit? Ravi Shankar, he's dead now, but very famous sitar player of the previous generation. Prabhupada said about him, he came to see Prabhupada once. Prabhupada said about him that he'd been practicing for 18 lifetimes. And yeah, that's how it is. I mean, really, that's nothing compared to what Sutapa and Prishni did. But if you want success in life, it's not going to come without blessings, and you're not likely to earn anyone's blessings unless you go through some austerity. That's just the way it is. Punya, tapas. You build up tapas means power also. And you build up a certain amount of power by voluntarily undergoing austerity. And this is what the prachetas were doing. But they were so sincere about what they were doing that they got the supreme benediction immediately by the intervention of a pure devotee. Who was that pure devotee? Lord Shiva. Yeah. So Lord Shiva taught them this Rudra Gitam, the song that he was meditating on the Lord. Lord Shiva was there at this place meditating on, we can assume from the description here, Guru Vairappa. And so that's what he taught them. And so these are some very beautiful verses that Prabhupada is discussing. And Prabhupada goes on to say, without serving Krishna according to the Vidhi Marg, regulative principles of the Pancharatra Vidhi, unscrupulous persons want to jump immediately to the Rag Marga principles. Such persons are called Sahajya. Strong statement. There are also demons who enjoy depicting Krishna and his pastimes with the gopis, taking advantage of Krishna by their licentious character. These demons who print books and write lyrics on the Rag Marga principles are surely on the way to hell. Unfortunately, they lead others down with them. Devotees in Krishna consciousness should be very careful to avoid such demons. Third time he said it. Pretty strong language Prabhupada is using here. One should strictly follow the Vidhi Marg, regulative principles in the worship of Lakshmi Narayana, although the Lord is present in the temple as Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna includes Lakshmi Narayana. Therefore, when one worships the Lord according to the regulative principles, the Lord accepts the service in the role of Lakshmi Narayana. In the Nectar of Devotion, full instructions are given about the Vidhi Marg worship of Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayana. Although there are 64 kinds of offenses one can commit in Vidhi Marg worship, means it's possible to commit them. In Raga Marga worship, there is no consideration of such offenses because the devotees on that platform are very much elevated, and so there's no question of offense. But if we do not follow the regulative principles of the Vidhi Marga platform and keep our eyes trained to spot offenses, we will not make progress. This is why Srila Prabhupada told us also in our morning program every day, he instituted as a regular practice, what do we recite after chanting Narasingha prayers and maybe after Tulsi Arati? And I don't know if they do it here, but in many temples. 10 offenses. Very much necessary. What are those 10 offenses? Satam ninda namnaha paramam aparadham vidanate yata kyatim yataha kathamusahate tad vigaraham. To blaspheme a person who has dedicated himself to attaining this ultimate goal of Krishna bhakti and who's trying to encourage other people to do likewise. If we criticize that person, how will the Lord tolerate it? He will not tolerate it. And on the other hand, Shivasya Shri Vishnurya Ihagunanamadi Sakalam Dhyabhinnam Pashyet Sakhalu Harinama Hitakaraha. The holy name will not help a person who cannot see a distinction between Vishnu and Shiva. Now at the same time, this is a little bit confusing, because the holy name also will not help you if you see a difference between Vishnu and Shiva. What does that mean? It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? What it means is that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is subordinate to him. So you cannot equate them, because any other demigod, even Lord Shiva and Brahma, they're not independent of Vishnu. They're not independent of Vishnu. Vishnu is independent of them, but they're not independent of him. This is the absolute truth. On the other hand, what is that oneness that he's talking about? Dhyabhinnam pashyet. It's offensive to see them as different means that you have to recognize that Lord Shiva is equally authoritative as Vishnu because he's acting as the representative of Vishnu on the Lord's behalf. We also say this in regards to the bona fide spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadat, or sakshad haritvena samasta shastre ruktas tatha bhavyata eva sadbhi. So then we have Gururavagnya, to neglect or just blow off the orders of the spiritual master as if they were paltry. That's an offense that will disqualify you from chanting. Gururavagnya. Shruti Shastra Nindanam, to blaspheme Vedas, Shrutis, or even Smritis, such as, name one. Bhagavad Gita. What's another Shruti? Or Smriti, sorry. Ramayana. What's another Smriti? Puranas. Anything else? Mahabharata or? Itihasas means the epics. What else? Smriti. If somebody talks about Smriti Shastras, what do we generally, what does it mean? Dharma Shastras also, no? Manusmriti. People aren't likely to blaspheme Ramayana. Some do. I would think here they probably do, but Manusmriti is quite often criticized, isn't it? So we have to be careful about that. Shruti Shastra Nindanam. That disqualifies us from chanting. What is it? Tathartha Vada Harinamnya Kalpanam. To think that the glories of the holy name are either exaggerated or imaginary. Harinamnya Kalpanam. What is the next line? Anybody know these verses? Namno baladyasya hi papa buddhir. Srila Prabhupada said, this is even the big devotees commit this offense. What does it mean? Well, I'm a little bit lax right now, but I'll get it together later. And for now, I'll keep chanting and I'll be okay. It's essentially, it's kind of like committing sins deliberately with the expectation that you can wipe your feet on the holy name later to clean them off. Not very good attitude to have. Namno baladyasya hi papa buddhir navidyate tasya yamayarhi shuddhihi. Yamaraj can't even think of a way to purify such a person. That's what Padma Purana says. Navidyate tasya yamayarhi shuddhihi. Or you can say yama means Yamaraj, or you can say yama means discipline. Any amount of disciplines that you take, it's not going to help you because you're an aparati. What else is there? Dharma vrata tyago hutadi sarva shubha kriya samyam. If you think that the Hare Krishna mantra is the same thing as an Agnishtoma yajna or a Chandrayana yajna, or, planting trees or building hospitals, it's not like that. Those things have very limited and karmic results only. The holy name, chanting the holy name may have a good karma as a result also, but it goes so far beyond that because it takes you out of this cycle of karma altogether, if that's what you want. It gives you love of Godhead, eternal liberation, and more than liberation. Vimukti means something higher than that. Love of Godhead. You cannot equate these things. It becomes offensive. Api pramadaha. What does pramada mean? Distraction. Actually, pramada, it means madness. Pramatta. To become so, we see people are so passionate and distracted that they're like mad, isn't it? Crazy. There was one story in Dallas, I remember. There was, people get road rage. Somebody just didn't like the way maybe you cut somebody off or something. So they wait until the red light, they hop out, pull a gun in front of your head and say, if you do that one more time, I'm going to blow your cookies into tomorrow. I don't know what that means. But this was a news report. This is pramatta. That people are mad, especially, it seems to me, I'm sorry to say, in California. Being a native of this place, I know. Los Angeles, maybe even worse. You can all decide that, but api pramada. And what's the other one after that? Dharma vrata tyago hatadi sarva shubha kriya samam api pramada. And ashraddhane vimukepya shrinvati. Then to try to give somebody instructions when they're not ready to listen, this is the Christian mode, right? Isn't it? Southern Baptists. And everybody knows it's obnoxious. They try to just preach at you and, shove their religion down your throat, and, it doesn't do any good. You have to wait until a person has a little faith. Adao shraddha tata sadhu sango bhajana kriya. You try to force this process to happen. It doesn't work like that. It just creates an offensive situation. You get a bad feeling, the other person gets a bad feeling, Krishna has a bad feeling. So you don't do that. Yashchopadesha Shivanama Paratha. So then what do we have? The last one is the most scary one. Shrutvapi nama mahatmye ya priti rahito naraha. Aham mamadi paramo. What is the last line? Namni sobhya paratha karta. A person who is, even in spite of understanding all these things, even after chanting for so many years, still his main thing is himself. Maham mamadi. I, me, mine. And there's no trace of love has been developed. If a person is committing all these other offenses, how can he not commit the 10th offense? It has to be there. There can be no love there. And without love there, how you can get out of this aham mamadi parama mentality? So Prabhupada is talking about these things. It's not supposed to be a lecture on the 10 offenses, but Prabhupada mentioned it here. So it's interesting that Prabhupada is emphasizing regulative principles because that's our access. It's kind of like if we say, if you want to get to San Francisco from here, which road do you take? 101, is it? Yeah, I don't know. We've already discussed 4 or 5. But, you can't really you can't take 101, can you? You just get on 101, right? No, can't do that. You cannot get on 101. You have to do something in between 101 and where you are right now. What is that? The access road has to be there, no? Yes. So these regular principles are like that. To be free from offenses, to follow your varnashram dharma, to follow the pancharatriki vidhis, vaidhi bhakti in general, this is a real access that we have. Otherwise, high principles about, samutkanta bhakti and viraha bhav and all these things that we want to hear about, but are we ready to really accommodate them? It's like trying to fit an elephant on a plate. You just break your plate. It's not going to happen. So these are the things that Prabhupada has chosen to emphasize, among many other things, of course. Let's end on a positive note. He says, in his description of Krishna's beauty, Lord Shiva uses the words Charoayata Chaturbahu Sujata Ruchinananam, indicating the beautiful four-armed form of Narayana or Vishnu. Those who worship Lord Krishna describe him as Sujata Ruchirananam. There are hundreds and thousands and millions of forms of Vishnu Tattva, but of all these forms, the form of Krishna is the most beautiful. Raise your hand if you agree, in whole or in part. Everybody likes Krishna, not only among the Vaishnavas, actually. You all know Vednarayan here? Some of you know. From Seattle Wale, they know Vednarayan. So, he's from a Shaiva background, comes from a priestly family in Tiruchendur where they worship Skanda. And when he first joined ISKCON, he went home for the first time wearing the Ujra Pundra. Everybody in the family for the last 2,000-3,000 years is wearing the Tiryak Pundra. What's going to happen? He was quite worried because they're all pujaris of Skanda. So, he went home and everybody's talking to him and looking at him and, nobody's really saying anything and he can't understand, are they okay? Are they not okay? He was sweating bullets. Finally, he goes up the line of all these mamas, and then, finally he got to speak with Tata. And Tata goes like this. In India they do this, right? Here we do this, but in India they do this. So Tata brought him into this, he has his own little bhajan kutir, and he shows him. And of course, big picture of Murugan is there, and, all the Shivalingas and everybody is all there. But there's a little throne in the middle of the altar. Who's sitting on top of that throne? Bal Gopal, this big. And then Vednarana thought, oh, relief. Everybody likes Krishna. They may not be able to admit it, but everybody likes Krishna because he's all attractive. And this is the point of Lord Shiva is making here. Even though the deity in front of him is Vishnu, but in Guruvayur, nobody sees him like that. Even the pujaris also dress him in such a way after Mangalarati. What do they call that? Vakachartu. And then they have this, anyway, there's several pujas they're doing, but they cover him with chandan and they put this little kalachiri, how do you translate that? Mischievous smile, which Prabhupada is mentioned here in his purport also. Very beautiful smile. So they put this, and he's so bewitching. My wife, first time we went to Guruvayur, and she just fell in love with him. We went 5 times in a row. They don't let you do this. 5 times you go through and you take your darshan and you go and do circumambulate. We got back in the line. They let us keep doing it 5 times. They didn't throw us out. And this is hard when you're a Caucasian because you got to get special permission from, well, actually more than special permission. It used to be that you would have to get special permission from the king at Padmanabhapuram in the old days. But now there's a new rule that, the king doesn't even deal with it anymore. You got to go take initiation into Hinduism from Arya Samaj. So many ISKCON devotees have done this. Probably Indraduna Swami has done it, no? I know Giriraj Swami did. I did it also. So, whatever it takes. That's called accepting things that are favorable for devotional service. When I first went to Guruvayur in like 1987 or something, he wasn't so famous then. He's really increasing in popularity. Actually, every temple in India is increasing in popularity. In Vrindavan, our temple president, Panchagoda Prabhu, he told me, since the pandemic especially, there's been a 300% increase in pilgrims coming to Krishna Balaram Mandir. And you notice it, believe me, if you've come to Vrindavan recently, it's just really, it's unbelievable. Sometimes you can't even get into the temple in Kartik. You need a hydraulic drill to get through that crowd. It's so many people. Anyway, in the old days, you could just walk in and out at will, and the darshan was free, open. You just spend as long as you want in front of Lord Guruvayur Appan, seeing this description in real life. Those days, unfortunately, they're gone. Maybe when we go back to Godhead, if we're fortunate, we can see again like that. But now it's very strict. Anyway, so this is many things are in this purport. I highly suggest you all in your own time, because we're out of time now, just study these beautiful verses spoken by Lord Shiva. And he's a little bit confidential about it. He doesn't say directly what he's talking about here. If it were not for me telling you this, I don't know if you would be able to figure it out also. But I've gone through the commentaries. I've gone through studied every verse in great detail and see that everything matches up. It has to be a description. It looks to me. That's my opinion for what it's worth. So he's talking about this. Chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. And it's a long chapter, a very famous chapter. But he concludes, Lord Shiva says, a devotee who rises early in the morning and with folded hands chants these prayers and gives facility to others to hear them certainly becomes free from the bondage to fruitive activities. Raise your hand if you're in. Sounds pretty good, right? You just have to get up early, make sure you put on your tilak and you're clean, and you chant these prayers and think about what they mean. My dear sons of the King, the prayers I've recited to you are meant for pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul. I advise you to recite these prayers, which are as effective as great austerities. In this way, when you are mature, your life will be successful, and you will certainly achieve all your desired objectives without fail. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 4th canto. Well, there's a purport here. Prabhupada says, if we persistently engage in devotional service, certainly all our desires will be fulfilled in due course of time. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 4th canto, 24th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. How do we engage in this kind of devotional service? We don't like to ever give a class without mentioning it at least once. What is the main form of devotional service in Kali Yuga? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, and I mentioned already, this is in Guruvayur, they're doing this. And they're studying Srimad Bhagavatam also. And they're worshiping Krishna, and they're worshiping Krishna with some kind of Braj Bhav. Where they got it from, I don't know. But it's interesting to note that, according to scholars, these things developed, became visibly manifest, I should say, around the 16th century. In other words, it sounds to me like this all manifested after Lord Chaitanya came through that part of the country. Just something to think about, because we know he was there. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells us that he went to all places, left and right, coming and going, but he doesn't mention all of them. This temple has been there for a long time. It wasn't very popular until fairly recently. In fact, the kings there were called Zamorins, and previously there was another place on the Bharatapura River, north of Guruvayur, and there was another Vishnu temple, which is actually mentioned in the Alwar's writing. Tirunavai, I think is the name of it. But that place was much more popular in the old days, and Guruvayur only recently has become popular. In fact, I would say within the last 70 years, this temple has become as popular as it is. But it has a long history, and it's very, very significant. How many other such places are there throughout the length and breadth of India? No way to tell. If you want to get an idea, though, read the 5th canto, chapter 19, and purport after purport after purport. Prabhupada is just glorifying the great good fortune of taking birth in that country. So many, everywhere you step, practically, everywhere you look. The Lord took birth here, some great Acharya did that there, some yajna happened over here, some pastime over there. Very, very fortunate, those of you who've taken birth in India. And what does Mahaprabhu give to you in the instruction? Bharata bhumite hoila manusya janmajar. So, yeah, you got it. First things first. There's an order here. Janmasartha kori first, then parakaro parupakar. So this is how we do it, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, we have to stop, I think, because you're all working people, busy, and probably tired. So, but if anybody has any questions, maybe we can say a few things. Wasn't your name Kinjalika before? Mentioned in the verse. I remember. Okay. In fact, I don't remember initiated names. I know people from before their initiation. No questions? No comments? Yes?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the detailed descriptions about Uttara Gita. So Prabhuji, one thing about impersonalism, right? When Shankaracharya came to preach this Mayavad, so personally when I see a impersonalist, right, who is talking about Mayavad, I feel more disturbed than seeing a Buddhist. So I was thinking, what was the need to drive away Buddhism and replace it with impersonalism, especially Mayavad, where there is direct offense to the Lord?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, the fact is that we have a definition of atheism, which I've mentioned before. I think at least maybe even in 2 classes that I've given since I've been here. Anybody remember? How does our tradition define atheism? Not accepting the authority of the Vedas. And that is exactly what people were, they were becoming atheists in that sense, Nastikas. So Shankaracharya wanted to at least bring people back to the theistic path defined in that way. And in order to do that, he had to interpret the Vedas in such a way that people could relate to it. That it was impersonal and sounded a lot like Buddhism, because it certainly does. Yeah, you're right, it is offensive. But there's a continuum here, there's a nexus between Buddha and Shankaracharya, and then, beginning with Ramanujacharya, then Madhvacharya and other acharyas. Gradually the conception was more and more revealed as to the real nature of the absolute truth and the importance and the transcendence of devotional service. But it's a long-term plan. Sometimes it takes time to do things. You want to convince somebody right away, but it's just, you can't always do that. So yeah, it's a problem. And that's why Madhvacharya was so eager to destroy the Mayavad philosophy. He thought that Ramanuja, it's great, but he didn't go far enough. Madhvacharya was very militaristic about this. He spent more time disassembling the Mayavad philosophy than he did establishing his own system of thought. And in some ways it's better that he did like that, because he just, he left the work for the later acharyas to do. Vallabhacharya came, Nimbarka Acharya at least established Bheda, But really, until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, nobody could explain in a logically satisfying way how it is that you can have Bheda and Abheda simultaneously. And the fact that it's inconceivable doesn't mean that it's illogical, because some things are just like that. It's a paradox. So, this is it. How this thing is reconciled is beyond our ken of logic, but that's the fact of the matter. Is that making sense? Yeah. What else? Yes. What is your initiated name, by you? Kumari Leela. Okay. Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the very wonderful explanation of the Guru Ayur. And you mentioned some points about the deity worship where it should be very properly executed. And you also mentioned that, we just do a little bit seva in the morning. People are working, have kids at home, things are rushing sometimes. And I know I have seen you and Mataji doing like wonderful pujari seva during the your ISKCON LA yatra. So my question is like, we want to do it, but same time, we cannot not at that level to do it very strictly. So what's your suggestion or probably the advice for the people like me that, can balance out and still can perform?
Good question. You can read, I think it's second canto, chapter. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, there's a that verse that describes how the eyes that don't look upon the deity forms of the Lord are like the eyes on a peacock feather. I forget the number. It's the second canto somewhere. There's a very nice purport there on this topic. And also you can look under the Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Smaranam verses, wherein that long purport wherein Prabhupada explains Archanam. That's also a very good reference to study for the purpose of deity worship. And there are many others as well throughout his books. But one thing is that we should work very closely under the guidance of our spiritual master, assuming that we have a spiritual master who has time for us, or that we at least have some kind of mentor who can practically guide us, because that is the responsibility of a bona fide spiritual master. But we have these instructions directly from Srila Prabhupada in his books and also in his letters. There are relevant instructions to be had from those, but we should appreciate, what we can appreciate tonight is that deity worship to be authorized or pakka doesn't mean that it has to be complicated or impractical. There are very simple forms of deity worship. The point is to do it yatha vidhi. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, tasmat chastram pramanam te karya vijanataha, ityadi. So, if you cannot offer 64 items, then you can offer 16 items. And if you cannot do that, you can offer 10 items. And if you cannot do that, you can offer 5. It's perfectly acceptable standard of deity worship to offer dhupa, deepa, pushpa, chandanam, naivedyam. These are, I think that's panchopachara puja. There are different standards that are given in the Hari Bhakti Vilasa and Satkriyasar, Deepika, and other references, but these things have to be explained to us by a bona fide spiritual master, or at least by a bona fide pujari. Who knows how the practical activities of deity worship align with the Shastra. If you're consulting somebody who has no clue of either one of them, it's not going to help. So, we have to pray for guidance, and Krishna will give it, just like the prachetas. So that's what we can take home tonight. I've given you some references from Prabhupada's books as well. And pray. That's the best thing. But just bookmark this, that it doesn't have to be a very opulent or difficult standard, or you don't have to get up at 2 a.m. like they do in Guruvayur. You know, I mean, it's understood that busy householders, it's a little bit more lenient because the Lord is considered to be like a guest. Atiti Devo Bhava should be taken literally in that sense. Your guest is God. So he understands that, you know, you can give him what you can give him, and he'll accept that if it's offered with bhakti. He says that. But it has to be vidhivat. This is the point. Otherwise, it's not Vaidhi Bhakti, and we've heard the importance of Vaidhi Bhakti in tonight's purport. Is that helping? Okay? Yeah, 2, 3, 22. Yeah, it's a fabulous purport. Very, very instructive. And it gives you also a sense of, you know, the real commitment that Prabhupada expected with deity worship, even for householders. So, you know, another very important principle of practical, you know, principle of deity worship is that you should not bite off more than you can chew. You know, if realistically, if you can only support maybe Panchopachara Puja every day, then that's fine. But do it vidhivat. That's authorized. That's the important thing. Then you're working under the sponsorship of a bona fide guru, and everything is good. Krishna will accept that. Nothing wrong with that. What else? Okay. No, if I don't see any more hands go up, then we'll stop here. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you for listening patiently. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. And read this. 4th Canto, Chapter 24. Very, very wonderful chapter. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
On the gates, Prashadam will be. Also, we would like to quickly thank the devotees who cooked the Prashadam for today. So it's Radhika Vallabi Mataji, Ruchi, Saili, Nitya Lakshmi Devidas, my mother, and Manjari Gopika.